I make $230 to $240 every 2 weeks. I've been working there for almost a year.
Tyrone Owens prepares an order for the drive-thru at Taco Bell in Beaumont, Texas. Like millions of Americans, Tyrone gets paid minimum wage.
It's a kind of yeah and a no. Yeah, I feel like it should be increased, but I don't feel like it should be increased because if minimum wage gets increased, then the cost of living also will rise.
More than half of salary workers in America get paid minimum wage. Among those paid by the hour, 1.3 million earned exactly the prevailing federal minimum wage of $7.25 per hour. The majority of minimum wage workers spend hours on their feet and must endure difficult treatment.
When the government's thinking about whether or not they should increase the minimum wage, I think they need to think about the things that people who are making minimum wage go through on the daily basis. They need to take into account the cost of childcare, the average cost of having an apartment, of having a car, and they need to see if the minimum wage meets all of those requirements at the very minimum level. And if it can't do that, then maybe they do need to evaluate and see if they can make some changes.
I do. There's a real need for it because people need to be able to pay for the schools, the doctor care, and health care, and all that, and to make a decent living for them and their family. And I think it's past time. It's something that needs to be done. Mm-hmm.
The minimum wage in the United States should be increased. These workers say their wages are too low to provide for their families and themselves. The new president and Congress should address the minimum wage so that workers doesn't have to struggle to raise their children.
The video shows 25-year-old Melody Duchesne pulling up to a McDonald's drive-thru window with a neighbor at about 6:30 in the morning and objecting strongly when workers said she could not get chicken McNuggets at that hour because the eatery had started serving breakfast at 2:30 a.m. At that point, she is seen getting out of the car and hitting the drive-thru employee in the mouth. Then the manager comes over, Duchesne swings a few more times, and the manager tries to pull her up through the window by her hair. Other employees prompted the manager to let her go. They close the window as Duchesne tries to push it open, but she then breaks the glass with an object from her car.
Taco Bell is not only my favorite place to eat, but it's also where I work. Many of my coworkers and I currently make minimum wage, and many of them have families to support. That's why I believe increasing minimum wage should be the new president's first issue to address.
I think that the government needs to take a look into the actual revenue that the company is bringing in, because the company may already be bringing in a certain level of revenue to where they wouldn't need to rely on government assistance in order to be able to pay their employees a fair wage.
They're not teenagers taking on their first job, they're adults. Average age is 35 years old. A majority of lower wage jobs are held by women. Many of them have children that they're supporting. These are Americans who work full-time, often to support a family. And if the minimum wage had kept pace with our economic productivity, they'd already be getting paid well over $10 an hour. Instead, the minimum wage is still just $7.25.
Yes, ma'am. As the cost of living rise, I feel like, minimum wage should rise as well in order to be able to cover and pay our bills. Because if not, then we'll be stuck working overtime, stuck working 2 jobs, all because the cost of living is going up, but our minimum wage isn't going up.
I think that this is a very important topic for Congress to look into, as well as several other topics are important as well. But for this one, you're really looking into how people in the nation are going to be able to put food on the table. And it's not just food, but be able to get back and forth to work, be able to pay for health care, be able to pay for child care, and things of that nature. So it should definitely be an item that they look into just because of the amount of people that it affects in the country.
Well, it's been a long time since they had a real decent wage increase, and we are far behind. The major difference in what it takes and the amount of money that it takes to raise a family is not enough, and they know that. So they should know that they need to increase the minimum wage and increase benefits for people that's doing more than one job, because a lot of people is working 2 jobs to try to provide for them and their family. In the federal government, they always talk about doing away with subsidies. So I think it's important that they take a real serious look at it and work on it real hard.
Economists say increasing the minimum wage will hurt businesses, raise prices, and are ultimately counterproductive for the working poor.
Majority of Americans who earn minimum wage are under 20 years old, can only work part-time, and do not have a high school diploma.
Increasing the minimum wage will help workers boost their weekly earnings.
Folks, it's long past due to increase the minimum wage. That will lift millions of hardworking families out of poverty, and in the process produce a ripple effect that boosts wages for middle class and spurs economic growth for the United States of America. Economists acknowledge that if we do these and other things, wages will go up and will increase the gross domestic product of the United States.